Tales from the Tavern was recorded in front of a live Twitch audience.
I'm Commander Shepard, and Tales from the Tavern is my favorite stream on Twitch.
Hello, everybody. We are live. We are back with this week's episode of Tales from the Tavern. We are discussing the all-important mug of coffee in the green room. So, yes, it was very important. Thank you for the 23-month subscription, Wolf's Blood. I appreciate you very much, my moderator extraordinaire. And welcome, everybody, to Tales from the Tavern. I am excited to have a great, awesome panel of guests, including Lynn, who was supposed to be here last week and then couldn't at the last minute, and we were able to get them in today, so I'm very happy about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around. We'll have everybody introduce themselves, and then I will tell you all a little about how this stream works if this is your first time joining us. So, Ken, we are going to start with you. Tell us a little about who you are and what you do.
Man, I gotta go first. That's always fun. I'm Ken. I'm on Twitter as Bakery Crew Ken. I have played TTRPGs and Magic the Gathering and Warhammer 40k for a really long time. Probably about 25 years since I was like a young teenager. I am just a fan more than anything. I love games. I love talking about them. I love being a nerd. And so me and my buddies decided we were going to start a podcast just talking about nerd stuff and giving our opinions. So that's what we did. We're around episode 10 that's released right now. We have a few more recorded. It's called Roll With the Party. We got a cool logo. And that's what we do. We just entertain ourselves by talking. We talk a lot.
That's the way to do it. I'm telling you. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm excited to get a chance to actually talk to you face to face.
And I'm excited to be here. You guys are awesome.
Ty, tell us a little about yourself.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, I am Dungeon Mr. Ty on Twitter and also at Adventure Slang. And I founded the company Adventure Slang Productions to support the game system and setting that we are currently working on called New Varden, which is on Kickstarter right now. It's a D4 system. I call it Rules Moderate. Rather than Rules Light, but it's got a fairly simple D4 mechanic with a totally different setting. And like Ken, I've been in the RPG game setting for a very long time, back to first edition and BECME, and have climbed the ranks and took the infamous hiatus and come back. Just real quickly, I think that what happened was with my role-playing passion and my desire to write fiction, and then I went off to college and I had the hiatus, and then I came back, and New Varden is essentially me coming back to writing fantasy novels and fiction in its way. So that's the circuit that I have been on, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. And I had the opportunity to play New Varden the other night, for anybody who managed to catch that. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. I definitely suggest you all give it a look if you haven't had a chance yet. The link is right there in chat. So definitely check it out if you're interested in a D4 system. So, Allison, welcome. And tell us a little about you.
Hi. Well, I'm Allison. My pronouns are she, her, hers. You can find me on the internet at Insight Checked, pretty much everywhere. And I run a variety channel on Twitch with a focus on storytelling, whether that's narrative-based video games or actual play TTRPGs. We also interview creators, TTRPG content creators, and fellow GMs. So I'm, in comparison to what I've heard so far, pretty new to the sport. I'm a lifetime nerd, but only been playing TTRPGs for about 3 years, and I stepped into the DM chair 2 years ago. And so I have a big interest in, sparking that for other folks and getting people involved in the hobby. So I'm just really thrilled to be here today. So thanks so much.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to know you and get to chat a little bit. Lynn, we'll go to you.
First of all, thank you for rescheduling me. Food poisoning last week was just not fun. So
No,
I am Lynn. I am not a DM, but I am an eager player of many different systems, and I have been for a long time. About past 3 years or so, I've dipped my toes into the water as a creator. So I write, I edit, I proofread, I do all the things. Except DM. I haven't been brave enough to do it yet, so maybe that'll change sometime soon. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. You probably are most likely to know me from working on Uncaged, the Uncaged anthology. So, if you know it, yay! There's a 5th book out now. It's awesome. Go check it out. But yeah, otherwise I just love talking about games and playing games and doing all the things. So
yes, thank you for coming back. I'm so excited to have you. And for anybody who hasn't seen it in chat yet, Lynn is also part of the bundle for trans rights in Texas that's available on itch. So if you haven't had a chance to grab that, highly recommend it. Lots and lots of really amazing content supporting a fantastic cause. So definitely go give that a look after the stream, please. And Scott.
Hi, everybody. I am Scott. I am one half of ZealZaddy. I do have a partner that is a writer partner, and we are content creators. We stream games. We occasionally do a YouTube video on things like map making. I'm thinking of doing now that we've started publishing, which happened about 6 weeks ago. We've done 6 pieces and one a week. I'm thinking of doing streams on how to lay out your own and create your own publications, because I see there's a lot of people who have said they want to publish, but then I don't see it happen. And I think there's things that maybe from doing it you might learn, and we can help get more creators out there, because I think it's great when there's more out there. You can find us everywhere on Twitch. We stream our Elixia D&D campaign on Tuesday nights at 9:30 Eastern time, by the way. Drive Through RPG at ZealZaddy, all our socials at ZealZaddy, and on YouTube at ZealZaddy.
Just in case you weren't sure, that's at ZealZaddy.
Yep.
It's nice when everybody is able to...
TikTok is off.
Mine is too. I hate it.
Me too. It's maddening.
Glyza, thank you so much for the raid. Thanks for bringing your community over with you. Welcome in, raiders. You're just in time. We were just going around doing introductions, so let me tell you a little about the stream and how it works. So if you are new to the stream, basically the way that this all goes down is that we take all of our questions from you in chat. So if you have questions for any of our panel, please feel free to just drop those right into chat. I have a team of moderators that will make sure that we get the questions and get a chance to answer hopefully all of them, but as many of them as we can during the course of the evening. We will take a break after about the first hour, so if we don't get to your question right away, that doesn't mean we won't get to it at all. It just means that we will carry it over into the second half. If you've been here for a little while and you've got some channel points racked up, you can use the Ask My Question next for 1,000 channel points. That will bump your question up to the next one in the queue, so we can get to it a little bit faster. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how it goes. So feel free to start dropping those questions into chat whenever you all are ready. And we are going to get started. I'm going to start us with the general question. Scott probably knows what's coming because he's here every week anyway. My question for you all is, when you get to play at a physical table with actual dice, do your dice have to match?
yes. So I am that person that my dice need to match, and I keep the dice in their own little clusters. So I can't separate them by like, oh, here are all the D6s and here are all the D20. I can't do that because then they mingle and that's wrong. And no, so I used to have just dozens of sets around me, and I would just alternate between them. But I can't. I have too many dice. I can't do that anymore. But they all have to match, and they have to all be contained. So even when I have multiple dice sets in a bag, they're self-contained in their own little bags within the bigger bag. This is part of how my autism manifests, I guess. It's like they need to be categorized and separate and no mingling.
I am the exact same way. So, like, exactly.
I'm the exact opposite. I am fully chaos. I just grab a handful of dice out of my bag, and that's what I go with. And
Ew.
We all just felt a chill run down our
yeah,
spine.
I know. If they roll bad, they go back in the bag, and I find another one. And
that's how my girlfriend is.
I know all my players that I play with, they all hate it, but.
I'm the
They don't-
maverick. I'm digital dice all the way. I appreciate and love physical dice, but I just love rolling virtually.
Wow. I don't think
know.
I've ever heard that answer on here.
I don't think I
Yeah.
have either.
Unpopular
Ever.
opinion.
I don't know that
Wow.
I've ever rolled virtually.
Really?
Maybe way back in like the AOL chat rooms when that was a thing, but probably before you were born. But yeah, I don't think I've
No, I was there.
I've ever rolled digitally.
I was in the chat with you.
I hurt my ear just hearing what you just said.
I know.
Somebody in chat just said virtual dice hate me.
They're more challenging.
I now put all my dice into groups, and unlike some people who always do it by, they get a dice set for characters, I don't do that. I have favorites based on more of a feeling. Like I have some ice cream dice when I'm playing lighter characters, and then when I have like darker characters, I have different sets. So they move, but they're one set. Like I don't mix them except if I need a bunch of D6s as a DM or something.
That's fair.
Or D8s or D10s.
Well, I would say like that's the same thing, but then I went out and purchased a bunch of sets of D6s. So now I have matching D6s too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a dice hoarder. Like there are a lot of people like want more and more and more dice, and I completely understand it. But I just don't do that. You know what I mean? But I do use a different set for every character. Mm-hmm. And I have enough sets that so far, because I often am a forever DM, not so much as I am, not as much lately, but I used to be a forever DM only. And so I didn't need a whole bunch of dice. I had my DM dice and I just rolled with those. But what I do in my little dice tray right now is I have this set for my character. I have a set of the tiny dice just because I don't use them for anything else. And then I have my DM dice, which are my two original game science dice from way back when I was a kid. And then so I'll have my character set and then all those. And then I roll 2d20s at the same time every roll, just because in the off chance, sometimes we're like we jump ahead on advantage or disadvantage or something like that. I've got them there. And I think it helps my rolls better because my dice hate me when I'm in character and they love me as a DM. So and I think it just depends on the character as well. So
I found the same thing. Yeah, it's your DM dice are always real hot, and then when you're a player,
brutal.
Not so much.
Can you see these new dice I got from
they're so
Only
cool.
Crits? Can you? I don't know if you
Those
can
are
see them.
nice.
They're hollow, so you can I want to photograph them
Oh
with
yeah, I
light
can kind of
behind
see
them
through
and
it.
stuff.
I could see the light through them. Yeah.
Yeah, super cool. I love dice.
That's awesome.
Roll plastic dice or whatever they're made out of.
yeah.
Those
I
were
had
metal.
a set of metal dice, and they were too heavy. They didn't roll the way I like them to.
It's like
Wait,
somebody
they're
fell
too
down the stairs.
heavy? Is it like a muscle thing?
No, they're too heavy. We play on a bakery table. At my buddy's bakery, he owns a bakery. We call ourselves the bakery crew because we play at the bakery after it's closed. And the table's
that's
like
cool.
this butcher block. It's probably 10 feet long, 8 feet wide, probably bigger. I don't know sizes. But yeah, the metal dice just roll real weird on that table, and just stick with the whatever plastic or whatever they are.
So I'm gonna go for the low hanging fruit pun here and ask. So do you guys roll for initiative?
We do. It's actually one of our gimmicks for our podcast as well. We roll for initiative.
I love it.
Pick topics.
Oh,
There's a donut joke in there too, I'm sure, but
so good, so good. All right, well, we've started to get a bunch of questions coming in, so we're gonna dive right in. The first one was from we're gonna have to jump because somebody used their Ask My Question next, so we're gonna jump to that one first. And the first question is from Odysseus. Have any of you founded a TTRPG TTRPG publishing? If so, do you have any wisdom to share for a newcomer to the industry like myself? If not, what do you expect from indie publishers?
Can I start on this one?
Go for it.
Okay. So we just started recently publishing, and I'm writing a blog post that's going to walk everybody through what we had to go through from creating a business entity all the way to hiring artists, working with writers, publishing first books, going through the process on DriveThruRPG and Patreon. I'm probably a couple of weeks away from posting it, but if you watch me on Twitter, when it goes up, I'll probably even post it on Twitter as like a Twitter storm, one of those really long threads. It'll probably be like 1,000 thread piece. It's so long already. There's so many things that you run into, and it will end with a checklist of all that crap you got to do.
I can follow up there because I'm 9 months into this process, and I think it occurred to me this week that probably one of the most important things you can do is be patient. Don't think that it's just an overnight thing, because it's no way. It is no way an overnight thing. And in fact, if you have that realization and don't have those expectations, it takes so much pressure off of you, because it's a lot of stress and a lot of work, as much as it is fun. But when you run a business anyway, you're putting in a lot of long hours, and a lot of things you think are done, and in a week they're not, because they've evolved on their own. So I think patience and mediated expectations are really critical in that respect.
I'm going to be looking for that thread from Scott, because this is something I've actually been thinking about doing, and it's just so intimidating. So happy to learn from those who are doing it and have done it. So.
Yeah, it was very messy getting there.
It's not surprising.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the question of what we expect from creators. Is that as far as the type of work they're producing, or what we actually see in the game? Or I'm wondering a little bit more about, because I don't have the experience on the front end, but as a user of many different indie creator works, wanted to know a little bit more about what you were wondering about.
Yeah, if you want to follow up in the chat, Odysseus, and just let us know if you have any specific questions about it. We can definitely bat some of that around. Do you have any thoughts right off the bat, Allison, of things that you would specifically be looking for in an indie game?
I love just seeing people's personalities in their games. I mean, it's such a love letter to the hobby, and kind of sharing what you enjoy about games and bringing that to the forefront. So like all of the things that, you were missing in other systems, here it is, nicely packaged. All the things that you are excited about, here it is. So it's almost like I get to meet the creator and meeting their creation. And it's just so nice to feel like, oh, this is something unique. And like, I'm connecting to, the whole lore behind whoever made this game. So I love that. I love that about indie games. It's like going to a local coffee shop versus Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good analogy.
I wondered, it just in reflecting on my own process and the process that everyone who's been helping me has been putting into it, how much of our philosophy we put into our games. And I don't mean just philosophies of gaming, but philosophies of life.
Oh, sure.
I've started to look now at other systems in that way. to see if there's like a spiritual aspect to it or a world view kind of thing to it.
Yeah, I mean, it could even be something as simple as like who is set up in this world or in this system to be the villains, the law, like the, you know, how are things structured right off the bat for the players to pick up and engage with right away. It's really interesting to see kind of different points of view come out in games.
I know we could say more, but I'm wondering if that follow-up question from Odysseus came in.
Yep,
Right.
I just saw it. I think it means if you hear about the creators of their products, what do you expect from them or their new products?
I mean, I guess you have to know the creator pretty well to know what you're anticipating when they come out with something next, right?
Yeah.
I'm one of those fans that's been in the Cobalt Press Monster Tome line, you know, as they came out, or like Keith Amon, what's his last name? Who does the Monsters Know What They're Doing series?
Keith Amon.
Amon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a professional consumer. Speaking from that aspect, marketing is always my go-to. I'm going to buy a bottle of wine if it's got a nice label, if I think it's cool. I'm going to buy a cigar if I think it's got a cool label. If I hear a cool story about a creator, I'm going to look at their game. If I hear a great piece of artwork on the cover, I'm going to open that book. That's just as a consumer. I'm a sucker for marketing. If I see something or read the back of the book, because that's what I go to, I give it that 5 seconds, I'll read the back of the book. And if I see something that speaks to me, man, that's what I go for.
I guess to add to that, being a streamer, it's really nice when there's digital assets or something that I could easily convert into my online worlds, because a lot of times it's all physical, which is really nice. Don't get me wrong, I love playing board games and tangible things, despite my digital dice comment, which, you know, may may have suggested otherwise. But yeah, if there's an easily convertible asset for me, then that's less heavy lifting on my end to show people what it looks like online.
I shamelessly steal stuff from everything that I find, and I look at everything I find. Like, I'm constantly looking at new stuff, and shamelessly steal ideas to incorporate into my games or whatever I'm doing.
Well, I mean, isn't that gaming in general, though? I mean,
Yeah.
we kind of
I hope so.
we see something we love, and we're like, man, I could twist that and make it my own and add to it and take away from it. And I think that's just our nature.
It is. It's the nature of creativity, of human creation, because we're not very good at creating something out of nothing. So we need a model to build on.
Yeah,
I do.
I love that.
I do shout them out though. When I find something really cool, I post it on my stream. Like Underground Oracle Publishing, I use their stuff all the time. So they asked me to become a partner because I use it all the time, and I was always shouting them out anyway. I said, "Sure, I love your stuff, no problem, happy to do it."
You know, one of the things I have to say that I really appreciate, whether it's from a big publisher or from a smaller indie publisher, and that I'm paying more attention to now, is how accessible is the product. Especially digital products. You know, how is the font? Is it dyslexic friendly? What is the layout? Is it readable? The font choices that you make, the colors that you use, the layout. Is it screen reader friendly? Because I love print material, but I know a lot of people, speaking of digital assets, that's what they use, and that has to be a factor in the design. When people really put thought into that, I will fall in love with the publisher if they really are thoughtful about making it inclusive for everybody. And it's not so easily done, but you know, even if it's not perfect, you know, if they're trying, if they're sincerely trying, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So shout out to all the folks who are making the effort.
Yeah, definitely.
To that effort, there's a font out there called Dyslexia for dyslexic readers, and the font is not being dyslexic. I can't speak to whether it helps or not, but I've heard from everybody that it is beneficial for people who are dyslexic. So.
Yeah. I know some of the projects that I'm familiar with that people have worked on have been like they will bring in an accessibility reader to go through and make sure that there are descriptions for all of the pictures and that it's screen reader friendly and that the font, there's a version that has has a dyslexia friendly font and things like that. So yep, it's been really interesting. It's very eye-opening, and I am not someone who needs it, but I appreciate knowing that it's there.
Right.
The first time I saw was with Plot Hook's Disaster Hamsters. They released 2 versions, one with dyslexia font, one with the regular font. And at first I downloaded the dyslexia font and I thought, wow, that's an interesting font because it's very weighty on either top or bottom. I don't remember which. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I read that it was the dyslexia version. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I looked at the other one and I'm like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah.
It was one of those moments you're like, oh.
Stuff like that's great for all of us, whether we need it or not, because the more people that have access to the games, the easier it is to find players.
Right.
I mean, everybody's complaining about finding players and finding DMs and getting a game that's a good schedule. The more people that have access to these games, the better it is for all of us. So we should all be pushing for this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to speak to what Lynn said. It's harder, it's a heavier lift, but when you design for the broadest ends of the spectrum, then everyone's included and like everyone's at the table at that point.
Right. And you in terms of, selling or kickstarting or something like that, you're going to have bigger success because you can reach those people that may otherwise have passed it up for, if it wasn't accessible to them. So Apache 1222 in chat just said too that I have a few regular video games that I play that have a colorblind mode, if you will. It adjusts the colorations around so it's easier for those individuals to see and play the game.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, you have a hype train going. Oh my God, that's cool.
I do. Yes, we have a level 2. So yeah, thank you all. Throwing little bits in chat. I super appreciate it. Yeah, they recently changed it from a hype train to a boost train. So now, based on how your boost train does, it will actually boost you on out to new viewers on Twitch, which is really exciting. So, yeah. All right. Well, we've got a pile of questions that have come in, so we're gonna jump to the next one. This one may or may not be a fast one to answer. Midwest Miniature Guy would like to know, what is your favorite convention to attend? I just got back from GaryCon literally 2 hours ago and had a blast.
I'm not much of a traveler. We have a local Steel City Con in Pittsburgh, and we always get a good showing of stormtroopers and clone troopers that show up, and my 5-year-old is obsessed with Clone Wars, and they are always so kind, and they take pictures with him because he dresses up in like a Halloween costume, clone trooper outfit, and they always take pictures with him, and they're just the best guys you'd ever want to meet. It's just our local con, but I love it.
I'm actually repping mine today. PAX East coming up in just a few weeks again. I'm super excited. That's the one I go to. This will be my 10th in-person year, 11th year, including online last year. So that one's mine. It's also my local one because it's in Boston and I'm an hour and a half outside of the city. So
I used to love Gen Con most. I love PAX now. But I do have a weird story about going to my first Gen Con. This is when it was in, oh my God, you're going to know how old I am. This is when it was in Madison, Wisconsin. And when we were flying there, our airplane, I was sitting like over the wing, and it was struck by lightning while we were flying, and the plane dropped. And it was one of those, oh my God moments. And then it was struck again. It was like, and we didn't die. Somehow it's like, wow, this should be a killer con if we could survive that. And it was awesome.
I went to my first Gen Con in 2019, and it was amazing. For those who remember the Sports Center commercials where the athletes were in with the color commentator folks. It's kind of like that at Gen Con. Like everybody's milling around, and you recognize so many people, even if you can't think who is that person. And I started going to DundraCon, which is in the Bay Area. That was the first convention I went to, and met Zeb Cook there when he was still with TSR, and cool stuff like that. I like every convention I've ever been to. The experience is more or less convention, game convention experience, and you're getting that feeling. Now I haven't been back to a convention since 2019 and Gen Con because of the pandemic and all that stuff, but I am planning to be on a bit of a circuit next year going forward because I can and because I want to. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to get to PAX, and I'm going to get to, probably PAX West for sure, but anyway.
East is where all the cool kids hang out. Just saying.
I wish there was more happening in Chicago. That's where I am. But Gen Con is relatively close by. I mean, it's still too far to commute, so it requires overnight stay. But, still Midwest. So that works for me.
Yep. Midwest is best.
Yep.
Also Chicago-based here. C2E2, not really gaming focused, but it's a fun con.
Gen
There
Con's
used to
on
be
my
a
bucket list.
there used to be a 40K or tabletop miniatures con in Chicago, wasn't there? Is that ringing a bell for anyone? No? Okay, all right. I'm probably wrong.
I wish I'd have gotten to Gary Con this year because so many of my virtual friends were there and they were sending pictures, and I was like, man. But I teach too. I teach college English classes, so it's middle of the semester for me right now. There's not a whole lot of sensible responsibility in just picking up and taking off for 4 days right now.
All right. Let's see. I could talk about going to conventions all day long, but we're gonna bounce back to this question that Bat Duck K sent in when we were discussing our dice, and he would like to know: do you discipline your dice?
Oh yeah. Oh, there you go. My wife for Christmas bought me a makeup bag with a zipper, and if those dice aren't performing, they get like 2 chances. They go right back in that makeup bag, get zipped up, over for them.
I'll give them timeouts, but I won't discipline them. I mean, I try to encourage them lovingly. I try to give positive reinforcement to my dice. I mean, like, okay, you need a little break. You go over there right now. Yeah,
That's funny,
I don't. Go ahead.
Oh, you're so loving.
I put them in rehab, and I put them around other dice that are rolling good, so that they pick up good habits rather than, I don't want to send them to jail. All they do is they learn to roll bad more.
You guys are making me sound like an abusive dad.
Oh no.
I've seen literal dice jails,
Yeah.
3D printed dice jails. Yeah.
One of our
Rehab.
friends. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I don't punish my dice. I keep giving them chances over and over and over again, and if they're not behaving, then I stick one aside and I pick up another one, and and then I learn that it's just they hate my character.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Rick Stevens in chat just says, I have a gumball machine that we use as a dice jail. Bail is a quarter.
Rick Stevens is a genius.
Right?
I don't know if Plus 10 Broadsword's in the chat, but he can vouch, or Blackmore Flan, or any of the, my fellow players, but they can vouch that my Monday night character is despised by my dice. All of my dice. Even the ones I haven't gotten yet. Despise my character.
Time for a coffee.
What did character ever do to those dice?
Nothing.
And I just want to point out how loving Lynn is with her dice.
Yeah.
I'm impressed. That is
Well, I've seen it. I've seen discipline go very badly for some friends. We had this friend. We were in a Pathfinder campaign. We ran a Pathfinder campaign at our home as our home game, and it lasted for 5 years. Went all the way to level 20. Yay, Pathfinder First Edition. And one of the players that started the campaign with us got so frustrated with his dice that he just kept changing his dice, and then he switched over to a digital dice roller. And we kept telling him, your dice are really gonna resent you for this, right? Like, gotta build a relationship with your dice, right? And he just wouldn't have it. And he just kept rolling worse and worse and worse.
Oh no.
We're like, we told you, man. Like, seriously, be nice to them. And then we had his fiance also in the game, and let's just say she is a very well endowed individual, and she would be nice and lovingly put them in her cleavage to get them to roll better for her. And I thought that was a better way to go than putting them in other forms of timeout.
Oh gosh.
That's not going to work for me.
No, I'm not really. That's not really much of an option for me either. She had me totally beat on that. But everyone has. But he just. Oh, it was so sad. It was so sad. He had some epic fails though because of it, and it was entertaining for the rest of us.
Here's how much my dice hate me. I had my fighter. This is my Monday character. Had advantage on a roll with a potion of Storm Giant strength, so I was plus 10 on my roll, and I rolled 2 1s.
Oh no!
Hate to see it.
Oh, that hurts my soul.
Right?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's painful.
It's
You're a
ridiculous.
professor, right? You send your dice to dice detention.
I give them sentences. I give them sentences.
Was the
tension.
DC 10? Was the DC 10 on that at least? Like, did you beat it?
With
the 1?
Oh,
Plus 10?
it was plus 10, yeah, but it was a 1, so they were automatic failures, right? Because they were crit
Yeah.
fails, no matter what. Plus, I was fighting I think I was fighting a dragon in human form, and I wasn't, I needed a whole bunch more help. I thought plus 10, that's pretty good help, right? Because plus 10 plus my additional pluses, because I think that the potion was, anyway. When you roll 2 1s on advantage, it doesn't matter.
Not a good day.
Oh my.
Yeah, I don't know how to
goodness.
punish digital dice. You just refresh the page a bunch of times in anger. Like, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Oh goodness. I don't specifically punish my dice, but I think it comes back to the fact that they all live in their own little cases and stuff anyway, so I just swap out the whole set. Unless I'm playing with a D4 system and I don't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
What'd you
I don't know
roll?
anything about
A
that.
2 and a 1? Nope.
Doesn't help when the target's a 4.
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right, let's see. Next question that we have is from let's see. WH Publications. Question: do you use fumbles in your game? And if so, what is your most memorable fumble? I have such a good answer for this one.
Well,
We
I'm
use
not the
fumbles.
DM. You use fumbles?
No, go ahead, Lynn. Go for
I was
it.
just gonna say, right now my home game is a Scion First Edition game, so it really hasn't applied. But in our Pathfinder game, we had fumbles, and it was very entertaining at times. I was playing a swashbuckler who became relatively broken. I mean, it was an amazing class. It was great. But every once in a while, there would be this fumble. And I remember at one point, like without my rapier, I could do very little. I was a very specialized character. And we were on a ship, and the rapier went flying out of my character's hands and down into the deep water. And of course, like, well, what would my character do? So she just dives off to go after it because it's an important thing for her. It had some amount of value, and it's like there's this whole chaos going on. And I'm like, no, gotta go and rescue the sword. And other NPCs told my character how stupid she was for that, but she's like, I have reason. But yeah, it just went flying right out of the hand, and just I could not bear the thought of leaving it in the great depths. So had a couple of things like that were comically timed result-wise, but heartbreaking in the moment. Like, no. she'd been squished without her sword. So
I love fumbles.
yeah,
They could be a lot of fun.
They're as fun as critical successes for me, and my
yeah.
DM is super cool in my home game. And if I roll a fumble, he usually lets me just kind of riff with it. I was playing a cleric, a life cleric, and we were fighting a bunch of vampires in their like underground dungeon, and one hit me with a befuddle, and I rolled a 1 on my save. And we play, a natural 1 is always a fail because you could just have fun with it. We found that it's just more fun that way with us. So I rolled a 1 on my save, and I decided to just run around and start hugging all the vampires instead of trying to attack them. And as a life cleric of Ilmater in the Turil Faerun Dungeons and Dragons, that is absolutely not something I would do. And I was getting in the way of other players that were trying to hit the vampires, and it was a hilarious mess.
Chaos. I love it.
I actually like that as a fumble, getting in the way of someone else, because then it's a chain reaction of failure. It's not just your own failure. Other people in the party are dragged down a little bit. I mean, you succeed together, you might as well fail together.
Right. We just have fun with it.
It depends on the party for me. Depends on how experienced they are, if they're ready for that kind of chaos brought into a game. If they're new, I try not to, but later on, if they've been playing, all right, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm hit or miss with the fumbles because it kind of depends on my mood and how the vibe is going with the table and stuff. As a DM, if depending on the size of your party, especially when you include fumbles, now that's more material you have to develop, more stuff you have to come up with in the moment and address and deal with and account for and that kind of stuff. And my parties recently have been 7-8 players, so that's a bit much to manage.
Yeah.
I had a game that we played. This was a couple years ago, a Pathfinder First Edition game that we did use a fumble. We actually used a fumble table, and this happened with not with one of the players. It actually happened with the enemy that we were fighting, and he rolled a 1 on his attack. And he managed to punch himself in the groin. And that managed to basically render him unable to move for the next 4 turns. And
that checks out.
Yeah, that's pretty realistic.
And
that was a gritty game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a lot more that happened along with it, but oh my God, we were laughing so hard. When the whole thing happened, it was just, it was ridiculous. It was so funny.
I see a comment in the chat by a synthetic 20, and I think there's a fumble to punish your players, and that I'm not a big fan of. And then there's a fumble to add to the story or create a little bit of fun chaos. And if you're in a group that takes that approach, fumbles can be as fun as critical successes, but I've never really enjoyed them as like a punishment, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was going to say, coming from like Powered by the Apocalypse systems, where there's always that partial success and you have to decide, what went well, what choice are you making here? That's kind of how I would do a fumble on a nat 1 even. Like it's not all bad. Maybe you have to make a choice between something that you didn't want to happen and something that's maybe flavored a little bit worse. Maybe it's physical, maybe it's like something mental that's getting in the way. Deep dark secrets, backstory. Like a fumble can be flavored to bring mental turmoil to the story, and that's oftentimes fun as kind of a biffed shot or strike or anything like physical.
Yeah, and somebody had said that you should balance. If you're going to have critical fumbles, you should have an equal table on the other end. But I don't agree. I would rather err on the side of the players having more fun and having good things happen to them more often, and with the benefits of the good being heavier weighted versus the fumble table being equal. I'm not trying to bring the party to you drop your sword and it becomes a TPK. That is not what anybody wants to sign up for.
Yeah.
No, nobody wants that.
Yeah.
I do find sometimes the players want the pratfall Three Stooges moment, though. Like, as you say, depending on the vibe of the game and the mood of the table, sometimes there's just a really satisfying, like, pie-in-the-face moment, and everyone's just hoping for it. So I think there's always a good time to land that one really intense physical stunt.
If you're in a longer campaign, sometimes things aren't going to go your way, and you have to run away with your tails between your legs. And bad dice rolls are a good way to make that happen, so that the success later on is even more glorifying and more fun.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Back to my poor fighter, he's the butt of everything because he's supposedly the leader, because I said he was, and everybody's like, okay, leader, what are we going to do now? And he's a tiefling, so he's always catching his horns on a low beam, or my critical failures tend to hit the Dragonborn Sork, who's like the victim of my failures half the time, and things like that. So and then they never fail to remind me, hey, Ray, remember that one time, blah blah blah, all the time.
You wait, though. You're going to come in and clutch one of these days, and everybody's going to erupt.
I have my moments, but they don't recount those as often.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Let's see. I think we can squeeze in one more question before the break. And this one comes in from Asynthetic20, and it says, question specific to Lynn, but any experience with publishing would be interesting. What was it like working on Uncaged as a collaborative? Have you done any other collaborations, and what lessons have you taken from your experience?
Oh my goodness. Great question. I will say Uncaged was the first of a good number of collaborative projects that I've done. I love doing collaborative projects. It's the best. I find that when you get a bunch of creative minds working together, you get something even better than you would oftentimes if you were just working by yourself. Uncaged was remarkable for me, especially because it was early on. And it had really started a lot of the conversation going about how to practice inclusion, not just in the finished product, but behind the scenes. And a lot of us found, and still find because we're still communicating with each other in Discord, but a lot of us found that was the first place, that Discord where we worked and shared ideas, that was the first place where many of us felt safe. Whether it was because of our gender or our orientation, we didn't feel as often with our identities that we could be ourselves elsewhere, that we would be dismissed, our concerns would be shot down. If something problematic came up in another space and it were voiced, that would just be, hand waved away. It was very intentionally a safer space, and that was by design. And that's something that has kept through to all of the other projects that the Uncaged alumni have done, like Book of Seasons is an example, and now Uncaged Goddesses. For folks of marginalized identities, it was a balm to the soul like you would not believe. And that's part of what makes a collaborative project succeed, I think, is that you have to be able to feel safe voicing your concerns when they arise. You have to know that you're supported by the team. Communication across the board is really important. And as far as like project management, deadline reminders, because we all get really busy. Communicating expectations, being clear. I know I need that. I get a lot of brain fog with disability. So, don't be shy about helping people stay on task. But really, like, I would say overall Uncaged, and then the work I did on Chromatic Gamut. Just unbelievably positive, wonderful experiences with people that I hadn't worked with before, that I'm really glad to call friends now. But it has to be intentionally crafted. You can't take it for granted. So.
I'd like to add that I don't know that you can do most projects without collaboration.
Right.
When New of Arden came to me, which it did that's a big story. It came in a dream, and I woke up playing the game into writing things down and things like that. And then, my friend Mike, who is someone that we have done a lot of riffing. He's a musician anyway, so we've done a lot of riffing on ideas and things like that. And he's got more ideas than God, and some of them are great, and some of them I'm like, nah, I don't know about that, bro. But so I said, okay, here's an idea I've had. And so we started talking about it. Then my daughter, we were in Discord talking about it. My daughter was in that channel, started looking things over, got into the conversation, and the three of us just hammered through daily for like 6 weeks on the real foundational aspects and ideas. And then he went on to work on short, full-length adventure for us. So he's had his own project. And then my buddy Tim was working on like naming conventions and things like that because, I was like overseeing the lore and making sure that as these pieces came in, they fit like the vision that I had because I wanted to make sure that was going on. And then, and with my daughter, I'm like, hey, come along, check this out. You're really creative. You got a lot of ideas and things like that. And then she became indispensable as things really advanced and progressed. The play testers, some of my other friends have, contributed little pieces like, what if we did this instead of that, or add this? And you're like, wow, now, this game couldn't be what it is without that input. So collaboration is indispensable, especially on a medium or larger project.
Oh
yeah. I think of all the arts, there's really two that are super collaborative: filmmaking and game making. They're the most collaborative, creative endeavors I've seen. They're just you can do it by yourself. It will never be as good as if you collaborate. You need artists that are better than you. You need writers that are better than you. If you're not surrounding yourself with people that are better than you, then you're not really benefiting your own creation. You're benefiting your ego, and that's it. And if that's all you're doing, why are you in the game industry? The whole thing is collaborative.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, my peers make me better, honestly.
I feel like that's how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, really, it should. I mean, whether it's somebody's asked just the right question, it gets you to think about something in a new way, or they challenge an assumption that you didn't even realize that you baked in to your work. They can find all kinds of possibilities and potential problems that you may not know are there. And nobody is the best at everything. So if I'm not really strong in one area, I'm going to bring in people who can do it better than me, and I'm going to learn from them. I'm going to try.
I think that problem troubleshooting is huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's kind of like why a writer needs an editor, or like I'm an editor and I can edit other people's stuff, but I need someone to edit mine. My buddy Rocco was like, okay, D4 system, the way you've got it set up right now. I remember he came to me one night and he's like, I'm sorry to break this to you, but at certain levels of leveling up, nobody can fail. Like, oh, well, we really do need to look at the math of this process and not just say it feels like it should be able to work this way. Things like that are more indispensable than the idea. And you can't have. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to respond to. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I would say even the ego thing. Like, to me, my ego doesn't feel better when I do something myself. It feels better when I do something with other people. Mm-hmm. So to me, my ego doesn't need to be satisfied by, how you'd call it, solo work. I get more ego boost when I see an artist excited to show sketches for the next thing we're doing. Those emails, and then we get a Discord call, and we talk about them. As an art director, I deal with a lot of artists, but there's beauty in those moments that you'll remember forever. And there are those little tiny moments when the artist shows you something, you go, damn, I wish I had thought of that, but you know what? It's even better than if I had. Because they have, this industry's filled with creative people with amazing creative ideas. Just let them go crazy and you'll do better.
I love seeing what an artist does with the concept. I like to say, here's what we've got. Now you show me what you think that looks like. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Show me what my creature looks like to me.
I was going to say, too, I think there's something to be said for having a person or a group of people that you can work with that, Ty, like you were saying, somebody essentially proofread it and said, this is a problem. And it's a lot better to have somebody on your team that's going to be able to do that before you release something than have everybody figure it out after and then nobody wants to play your stuff. So yeah, I mean you have to collaborate with people, I think.
Yeah, I was reminded when you said it's cool to see what the artist does with the concept from the the actual play side, the running the game side. It's almost the same thing when you collaborate. So we have like a rotating cast on the Insight Checked channel, and I wouldn't have it any other way because you're always bringing in new voices. We have guest GMs, we have rotating players. So it's like when you read in the book what an actual play can look like, those like 5 or 10 pages where you kind of have the dialogue and it shows you, here's what these basic moves look like, here's what the dice rolls look like, here's what a player would say in game. Like I feel like we're bringing that to life, but with collaboration, you're getting so many different perspectives on one game over the course of, we have mini campaigns. So it's like we rotate in a new cast, we have a new kind of flavor to the same rule set. And that's really beautiful too, because it's like bringing to life in the same way an artist does, kind of what this can look like with different people's minds and voices, adding to that layer of the gameplay, which is also really rewarding to see. And it's not just me running the same, I could run the same system over and over again, but as long as I have collaboration, it's fresh every time.
Yeah. Pluston Broadsword in chat had made a comment that I think has value in this too. He said, I find as GM sometimes the players have better ideas about my own story than I ever did. And I completely agree.
Yep.
In fact, I will take, like, when I started running, I have like these not characters, story arcs. But the moment I read all the backstory stuff, half the story arc's probably gone, and it becomes way more about their story. And if that happens to converge at the end, great. If not, great. It's way more important that their story is told than your own, because it's a much better story than anyway.
And that's a sentiment that I hear on this stream a lot. Like a lot of people, a lot of DMs will say, my players come up with way better stuff than I ever could. So yeah, it's really cool to hear people say that.
The art of GMing is hearing them say the really cool stuff and just stoically say, and then it appears later in the session as though it was already there.
Magic.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are about at a point where we are going to pause for a break. We're going to take a slightly longer break than we usually do because we have something different in the break tonight. You'll still see the intermission screen. However, we have a little talk show, if you will, called Garth and Zad Are Friends. If you are familiar with TT Benjamin and Zad Killing Green on Twitter, then you will be familiar with their voices. And they are piloting a fun little project that we're collaborating on, and so stick around during the break. You'll get to hear their little talk show where they are in character answering questions from other characters. So it's very entertaining. I gave it a listen this afternoon. So let me know what you think. If you love it, even if you don't love it, we want to know, because we want to make sure that it's fun for everybody. So we're gonna take a break. We will be back in a little over 13 minutes, and we'll see you soon.
All right, welcome to Garth and Zed are friends.
Solving your in-character problems with the power of friendship.
I'm Garth Rakasan. I fight monsters and do 6 stunts.
And I'm Zed, and I'm here to help. So, Garth, how you doing this week?
Not so great. I was gone for a few days. My dad sent me to this wizard school, and it was a total bummer. Everyone just wanted to talk about who they had crushes on.
Oh, I can see why that would be a total bummer to you. That sounds like a lot of fun, though. You should have had me along.
Yeah, that was like 3 days of orientation. We didn't fight one monster. It sucked. You would have hated it.
Single. Oh, I mean, a lot of crushes, though. A lot of crushes. 3 days orientation, and they've already got crushes.
Well, you don't have crushes. They have crushes. You don't, right? Because you weren't. Wait, were you there?
I was not, but I sure would have loved to have been. You know, I do love me a good crush. That's and I understand that that's not your thing, but you made it out all right. Sorry that you're not feeling terribly well.
I did learn this trick though. I think you'll like it. It's called presidentification or something.
Yeah.
You can make like sparkles.
Oh. And they become a leader of some sort. These sparkles?
Honestly, I have no idea what it has to do with the president, but you know, support our troops.
Support the troops. Absolutely. Hey, we got any questions that came in this week?
Yeah, I got a good one actually. I really like this one. All right, check this one. Yeah, this one speaks to me on a personal level. So Pope of the Eternal Grift at Bobbers and Chalky on Twitter writes, if you found you in an alternate timeline became a despot, would it be okay to kill them and take their spot? Now, I wasn't sure where that was going, but it's pretty sick.
Yeah, no, it would be absolutely sickening to find that I'd become a despot in another timeline. That sounds just awful. Yeah, Pope of the Eternal Grift, absolutely. I think for me, first blush, we take that version of me that sucks all the way to Murder Town, just immediately.
So you're saying it wouldn't be okay to become the despot?
I don't know that it is ever okay to become the despot. I think that maybe there are things that could be done in a temporary capacity being a despot. But that first step is crucial.
See, here's what I would do. Okay, check this out. All right. Yep. So you're in an alternate timeline, which is already like the coolest damn thing, right? And you meet yourself. You're like out in like this town, and it's like, oh yeah, our king Garth Rakasan. And it's like, wait a second, I'm the king? And they're like, no, this other dude whose name's Garth Rakasan. And then you meet him and he's you, and he's like bad as fuck, right? He's got like scars and he's got like cool armor, it's got spikes on it, right? And he pulls out like a giant, like what's one of those, it's like one of those ninja swords, but it's really long. One of those ones, and he pulls it out. Yeah, and it's like, all right, we're gonna do this. And then me, Garth Rakasan, is like, Garth Rakasan, you are a despot, and I'm going to overthrow you. But not here, not in your throne room where you have the advantage. There's a cliffside with like a sick ass beach right next to it, and there's like crashing waves. I heard there's gonna be some choppy surf, right? We're gonna do it there. And then like it's like cow, clash, right? And then like there's the thing where he's got the sword under your chin and he's like, you've been beaten, and it's like, no, not yet. And then you like bam the sword away, and then it's anyway.
No, you stopped before the good part.
What's the good part?
Yeah, no. What do you think the good part was, Garth?
The good part is where Garth Rakasan defeats Garth Rakasan for the good of the people.
Really, the ultimate challenge, the ultimate limit, even.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love that set dressing. That is perfect for you. I think just alternate Garth with the big spiked armor. Very, very dashing. Very fun. Excellent ambiance.
You probably can't dash. Probably can't dash because the armor is really heavy.
No, it does traditionally limit movement. Makes it really difficult to sneak around, if nothing else.
So anyway, if you wanted to become the despot, what you have to do is you have to use your superior agility to take him down when he least expects it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, I think though for me, boy, I feel like if I was a despot, perhaps engaging in single-armed combat might not might not go terribly well for this frail form. What might be a little bit more fun, though, would be to, I don't know, just like come by with a little with like a bottle of wine and a blanket and say, hey, we're not so different, you and I, and we could go out and we could go sit. I think so. In my version, we're still on that cliffside, and there's still a little bit of surf coming in, but it's not so bad. And it's sunnier. It's sunnier as we sit on that blanket and we chat back and forth over that bottle of wine and talk about things.
Yeah, and then you break it on a rock, and it's like I'm gonna defeat you, right?
Yes. Well, yeah. I think generally speaking, that's the way that would go. But on the other hand, being the same hand but with somebody different, I think that there's a lot of fun possibilities there.
Are you trying really hard not to say that you want to kiss? Is that the thing that you're building up to here? Is that the edifice that you're constructing this on?
See, it's the thing that I'm dancing around, because I don't want to say explicitly that I want to kiss myself, because it is on a certain level true. But also in this version, if I've fallen to the point where I've become a despot, maybe I don't deserve to be kissed. Maybe that's the thing. So that's really that's the first thing that has to go, is the uncertainty as to whether or not this version of me is worth keeping around.
Yeah, but isn't that where the yearning comes from?
The unknown, maybe I could change them.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe I could change them.
Oh no. Oh, what have we done?
Written a romance novel is what we've done. This next one that we have here is coming from Bear B Gremo Gaming, at Bear and B Game on Twitter. Hi there, first time caller, long time listener. Anyway, is there a better way to split up a phylactery? A better way to split up a phylactery? I
usually just use an axe.
Yeah, I was going to say like a magic sword. Magic sword usually a pretty good way to split up a phylactery. But I
like a good magic sword, like a cool magic sword though. Like it's got to have like the pommel. Like you ever see the magic swords where like there's the thing dangling off the pommel and it makes like the whooshies. Like I'd break up a phylactery with that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. What if instead of that being what it's reminding me of, having the little whooshy bit done on the end, is if it was a sword but was also some sort of common household implement, like a
rolling pin.
Like a rolling pin. A rolling pin that
it'd have to be a huge rolling pin, which is also cool for different reasons.
Right. And if you can, it is a sharp rolling pin somehow.
No, you pull all right, so it's got the thing, and then you pull out the sword from the rolling pin.
A childhood classic, to be sure.
Yeah.
An excellent tool to have. What about teleportation magic? Have we considered splitting up phylacteries using teleportation magic, where you're teleporting one side of it to somewhere else, then you're teleporting the one side? Is that feasible?
I knew a guy who did that, actually. Xanax, the mostly okay, Wizard of Carefall. He did that with a phylactery. He was like, okay, I'm gonna put it in this portal halfway through, and then I'm gonna shut the portal off. The effects actually reversed his face.
Reversed his face.
Reversed his face, yeah. Apparently it creates some kind of like a thing when you like and there's something in the portal and you close it. Like that's apparently you're not supposed to do that.
So his face was mostly okay at that point.
I would describe his face as unacceptable. Yeah.
Oh, well, R.I.P. Xanax. Hopefully he remembers to pull his socks up next time.
Anyway, great question, Baron B. I hope you weren't talking about splitting up your phylactery in order to scatter it across the land so it's harder to kill you because you're secretly a lich. That's super not cool. Garth Rakasan does not approve.
Zad does, under certain circumstances, approve of phylacterizing. It's a case-by-case basis. We should, you know what? Just go ahead. At Zad Keel and Green, let me know. We can chat it out. We'll see if you deserve unnaturally long life. And also, maybe we should discuss as to who are acceptable murder targets for that spell too. Actually, hey, maybe that's not the best way to live forever. We can talk about some other options for you, though.
All right, here we go. Last question. This is from Alex Roke. Lex Roke. His character Ethan asks, How dangerous is it to make a very, very, very large batch of explosives? The three varies would indicate that this is like a lot.
Like a really quite large, maybe more so than that.
I mean, potentially. I mean, it's like at what like if there's a fourth vary, how much bigger could the batch of explosives really be?
Are varies like do those scale like geometrically? Do they scale algorithmically? Do they scale exponentially?
I feel like we're talking factors of 10 here. So like a batch of explosives is like 1 keg, and then like very big batch of explosives 10, and then 100. So we're talking about 1,000 to 10,000 units total of explosives. How dangerous
Okay.
is that really?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the safety precautions that you have in place.
Uh,
Are you on a plane that has no oxygen? Because of course, as everybody knows, if you want to have an explosion, you have to have an ignition, a fuel source, and oxygen in order to cause everything to go boom. So if you happen to be on a plane or in a place where there was no oxygen, it would actually be rather safe to be mixing up a very, very, very large batch of explosives on account of they
Okay.
couldn't explode.
check this out. On a plane, very, very, very large batch of explosives, but the plane has oxygen. Also, there's a fire mage trying to blow you up. How dangerous is that?
I would say that's very, very, very dangerous.
How sick though? How sick
Oh.
would that be?
Well, it's very, very, very sick, obviously. That's, I mean, even just, I would even say, I would go so far as to say that a fire mage trying to blow you up is very sick. In which case, yeah, this would in fact make this very, 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 very sick if you were making a very, very, very large.
So the number of varies describing the size of the amount of explosives is directly proportional to how sick it is when you're fighting a fire mage to prevent the fire mage from blowing those up.
Well, it has to be, unless it is, unless it's like again, geometrically larger. In which case, it would be, very, 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 very sick at that point.
Okay, so we're gonna start using powers of vary here. So it's like vary to the 6 powers.
Very, very powerful. Extreme, very, 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 very powerful indeed. So, Garth, what did we learn today?
So we learned that if you want to split up a phylactery, you need to use a very, very, very large amount of explosives.
Especially if you wanted to split up the phylactery of yourself from another timeline, who had become a despot, which I think in that case would be very, very, very dangerous, but very, 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 very sick.
Now, what if you're both standing on the pile of explosives and you're looking into each other's eyes and you're like, this cannot be, this world must be undone, and then like the explosives go off, like, and you kiss.
I mean, obviously the explosives would go off. As mentioned, you need a fuel source, you need oxygen, and you need a spark, and that's a lot of spark.
Thank you. That's Garth and Zed are friends. We'll catch you next week.
Bye!
All right, we are back from break. I hope you all had a good extended break. I hope you stuck around, listened to the Garth and Zad or Friends talk show. We got a little caught up in a really good conversation behind the scenes, and I didn't want to stop it, but I was like, we need to come back. I'm sorry. I saw the question come up in chat that somebody is wondering if the VODs are anywhere outside of Twitch. Yes, they are. It will go up on YouTube later this week, and next Sunday it will also release in podcast form, video podcast if you listen on Spotify, or regular podcast if you listen anywhere else. So yes, it will go up on my YouTube. I think if you hit !socials, it'll give you a link to my Linktree where you can find and subscribe to the YouTube from there. That should be what it is. If it's not, then I have another problem with my commands. But there you have it. All right, we're going to dive back into some of the questions that we have. We had another 5 that had come in that we haven't had the chance to get to yet. So we're going to start with one from Kenley Kitten. And the question is, what's your favorite character, and what was it about that character that has stuck with you?
I played a Blade Mage in a Palladium Rifts game. His name was Apollos, and I played him for probably 4 or 5 years, weekly, and I built a character trait with him where he didn't lie, not because he was too good to lie, but he was too. He felt that if he lied, he was admitting that the other person was stronger than he was. It was a bravado trait. Like, I don't need to lie. I can tell the truth and deal with the consequences. And it got his party in trouble sometimes, but it also garnished some respect from some of the bad guys. Or in Rifts, everybody's a bad guy. So you're just dealing with a bunch of jerks everywhere. So I don't know. I really liked that character trait, and I don't even remember how I came up with it, but it was really fun to play. My DM would purposely put me in positions where he knew that I was going to tell the truth and it was going to add flavor to the story, and he was real good at screwing me over. We had a ton of fun with it.
I have a character that comes from Gamma World, actually. Stricken Silverfish. And I don't know if anybody out here knows, or many people know what Gamma World is, but it's post-apocalyptic gonzo mutations, and the plants are intelligent, and the animals and the people, and there's space suggestion travel and things like that. And Stricken Silverfish actually really came to fruition in a play-by-post game that I was in. And the guy that was running it then converted the sessions into novel form and self-published 2 novels of it with all of our characters going on in there and stuff. And I think that Silverfish was memorable to me just because I liked his aesthetic. He was kind of a kid who wasn't taken real seriously and was something of had a sort of survivalist mentality because it was him against the world. And for a while, my brother played his brother in the game. And, so there was that kind of connection as well. And he just did, when the situation called on someone to be brave, when no one wanted to make that, somehow my character ended up being in that position. If it was like throwing himself on a grenade or taking the risk to make that stealthy move or something like that. It just worked out. It wasn't on purpose, which makes me think of the serendipity of role-playing games in general, how things just sort of work out the way they're supposed to anyway. So I guess that would be mine.
Most people have heard me talk about my character, but her name was Eda Bricks. She was a rogue ranger fighter that I played in a Pathfinder 1st edition game. And God, she was a little spitfire, and I loved her to death because she was not afraid of anything. She was the one who would like jump from the ramparts to stab an ogre in the head, and there was a, she's like, she's a halfling. She's like 3 feet tall, and there was like a 7 foot tall Northman style Norse barbarian in the party, and the two of them would work in tandem all the time. So, one of her favorite things to do was she would go to take her turn, and she'd yell shield, and he'd drop his shield, and she'd run and like jump off it and attack whatever it was that they were fighting. And she acquired the nickname Yeetabricks that way. It was really, really fun, and I loved her too because she was the character that probably had the absolute most character development out of any character I've ever played. We had basically a play by post channel in the Discord for the channel that game was on, and so the characters could actually interact with NPCs that would be created by people in our Discord. And so once a week, I would check in with the DM, and he would pretty much say, okay, what happened in our RP channel? And he would use some of that to help flavor what was happening in the world. So occasionally, there would be references to other people's characters, and it was it was a nice little nod to the community that we had. But it was also a fantastic way for me to get some really, really high quality character development in. Figure out what is she like, what is she not like, what is she, what's her personality when this type of situation happens? Is she a leader? Is she a follower? Is she, all of those things that sometimes you just don't have the chance to figure out in a campaign when you're playing with the same group of people and in similar situations. And I really like, I hold her near and dear. She was my absolute favorite ever.
I'm sitting here trying to think of which one is mine. It's hard. It's hard to pick. They're like my babies, I like them all in different ways. I think, I started as a player, not with D&D. I started with World of Darkness, and you talk about jumping in feet first. That was intense, but I loved it. And all of my home games, I've been fortunate that they've gone the duration of whatever the intended length is. So like D&D levels 1 through 20. But I had the first D&D game that I was in, my husband, who is a voice actor and a wonderful player who's been DMing since the 1980s, he's the one who got me into it. And he introduced us in a 3.5 game, so very different system. And he said, well, the easiest thing to do is to start with a fighter. And I'm, okay, start with a human fighter, which sounds really boring for a lot of people, but I had so much fun with her. And at the end of that campaign, we were in between finding other people to game with, so he ran me in an epilogue campaign that went into epic levels. So I played the same character for 30 levels.
Wow.
And almost every weekend playing the same character. At the time, we typically would game for between 8 and 12 hours a day. When we would have a session, I'd make dinner, we'd do the whole thing. It would just be all day. And so I spent a lot of hours playing this character, and it really got me into the character development of it. I found a prompt early on, 30 days of character development, and I went down and I did each question, and I found the answers. I decided on the answers for this character, so I know her inside and out, like I've never known another character. And I still, every once in a while, something will remind me of a thing that came up in that campaign, and I'll get all emotional, I'll get all the feels. I'm like, you did that. Like, I love you so much. It was brilliant. It was fun, and it was traditional fantasy, yes, there were dragons. By the end of it, she had 25 levels of fighter and 5 levels of dragon rider. Her best friend was a dragon. That was her buddy that she would go into battle with. I mean, it was fabulous. And I got to ask really interesting questions about, when you're in combat, what are your ethics? What do you do? What do you not do? How do you respond to a situation? I don't believe that there's this line between combat and role playing, because combat is role playing. It informs the choices that you make, and
Absolutely.
what you do, what you don't do, and then what happens in combat informs your character development.
Definitely.
And that was the first time I really felt that, and I love her so much. I love her so much. So that was my first true love, and I never got character art for her because this was really before everything was online, and I didn't think about that. So someday.
That's awesome. I will talk about kind of the opposite, I guess, because I got my girl. I got my 2-year-long campaign, halfling ranger, ball of energy and chaos, and she's the one near and dear to my heart. Watching her level and kind of going into the improv mindset, as you said, of like, already knowing the character and then acting as the character and then finding out what that character acts like in that moment as you step into their action. So that totally resonates with me, what you said, but I'll lead with the opposite. So when you asked this question, I was reminded of my traveling character. So whenever someone's like, let's play a one shot, let's play a pickup game, let's, can you guest in our campaign? Can you pop on in? I have a character for that. And he is kind of, I would say, very Jack Sparrow-esque, like very like wibbles through the world, not a care in the world. His deal is he's from a matriarchal society, and he's the stay-at-home dad. And in this society, every 10 years or so, like they get a Rumspringa type event where the dads get to go off and find their passions, explore the world a little bit. So
Nice.
He's off on his sabbatical, essentially, and he just travels around, meets new people, has adventures, and it's just like the perfect character to pop into all of these different worlds and situations with, because here he is, what's going on here? So he's just a lot of fun, and yeah, really good vibes and energy, and continuity, weirdly enough, because he's traveling all over the place, so it makes sense that he's done all these things. So I have a really good time with him, too.
That sounds so fun.
It does sound fun.
My favorite was one that was a rogue charlatan, a human named Arslan Abderrami, aka Rasul Ibn Farik, and all these other names, because he was from a scattered to the wind tribe that was trying to reconstitute itself across nations, and we were all spies at this point. And little to my knowledge, someone in the party was a spy for the nation that scattered us. And it was a really interesting, like, spy versus spy game inside the game. And it was exciting and weird, and like their goals were like they had completed their mission already. They were done. They'd done what they'd done, and I was trying to undo what they did for all of us. And that game was funny because I had really nothing to. There was no way of constituting an entire tribe scattered all over the world. But as a player, I'm like, I don't know that. I'm going to figure a way. So I had all these disguises and different characters, and you got to do the thing where, you meet somebody as two different people at different times, and you have to try and keep them from knowing. I love that stuff. I love spy stuff in the first place. So getting to play a spy in a game, just so good. I recommend it highly to anybody. If you ever get to play a spy and you like spy stuff, that stuff is amazing. And you have to take a lot of notes. Don't do it if you don't take notes.
You must have a good GM who can manage that too, because you've got to have a good game master to keep all the pieces moving and
it's my partner in ZealZaddy. He's the one who runs that. We've been playing since the 80s, and he's an amazing DM. So, play spies. that are terrible with weapons. So you have to use your charismatic stuff to get out of things.
That is so old school. I mean, you want to talk
Learn
about
to
OS
talk.
or OSE? You're just talking about. I mean, I'm not to get into an edition war or anything like that, but to talk about before 5e, when everyone had extra bonus actions and reactions and multiple actions and things like that. In first edition and the early games, it was like you were using your 10-foot pole, you were using your pitons and your hammer and the things that were in your pack, because you didn't have anything else, and you had to be creative in how those things were applied. So I just brought that to mind.
This was in 5e though.
Oh, well, there you go. But you, at least maybe you knew how to do it that way.
You know, as a mostly DM or GM, like you learn a lot of tricks about maintaining secrets, keeping notes, or at least enough notes to remind yourself of things. The biggest thing is who have you met, because as a spy, that's everything that matters. Know who you've met.
Good BSer. A good BSer is a good BSer.
Yeah. And I love that. Such good questions tonight, by the way.
No, they are. They're so good.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. I for some reason cannot wrap my mouth around saying this person's username. Every time I've tried to say it, I've butchered it. Gum Malau. What has been your biggest motivator in continuing a storyline or a project when inspiration takes a day off? Pretty sure inspiration.
Character backstories.
Off, so.
BS.
Character backstories for me. I'll build an entire session on a backstory, and love it.
See, I'm not a DM, so I can't answer that the same way.
Yeah.
But I will say though, as a creative person in general, you know, sometimes you have to step back and just look at other media or other stories for a while. And then you can maybe have a different perspective when you come back to what you're working on. I know I can get bogged down in the details and, you know, just the minutia of things, and I need to just go and work on something completely different. And use a different part of my brain. Whether it's watching a movie of a totally different genre or working on a project that's of a totally different genre, it helps just to not get so frustrated in the moment. You know, and sometimes just talking to other people helps. I'm somebody who brainstorms really well just in conversation with people. I don't necessarily need to talk to find an answer, but just talking through something will help, and I'll have, you know, an idea come off in the top of my head at the randomest time. So for me, that helps.
It's the best time to let somebody in your party just steal one of their ideas. When you're DMing, like we talked about a little earlier, when you're DMing and you're just not feeling it, or you're not sure which direction to go, if somebody in the group comes up with a solution or comes up with a good idea, and you just hear it, you just go with it.
I have a little bit of a different experience. I haven't had much trouble like having plot lines and, you know, going like I know where I want my players to be at 20th level when the campaign's wrapping up. But I bogged down in 5e at about 11th to 12th level. I've run 3 multi-year campaigns, and every one of them stops at that level. I can't do it anymore. It's so much management for me. I have to admit it. You know, I didn't think that was a problem, because every time I start a campaign, I'm like, 20th level, here we come. And I get to 11th and 12th, and I'm just like, guys and gals, I'm done. I can't. I got to take a break, and we'll come back to it, and we never do.
You could have a Benjamin Button campaign where you start at highest and de-level them.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
great.
How much
Great
fun
idea.
would that be?
I could manage that.
I would play that in a heartbeat.
If anyone's
Yeah.
watching, and I know you are, we'll talk.
I think for me, I would turn to what happens in television, I guess, when they're, stuck for ideas. It's like a bottle episode where it's just a couple characters and they're in a room and it's skeleton crew, and like what kind of character development comes around just sitting around the campfire or whatever hearth and home you have in your setting, or just a beach day, and kind of how from sunrise to sunset, like some hijinks are going to happen that may or may not impact things long term, but we're going to have fun, we're going to dig in, we're going to have a little bit of an adventure, and just kind of go with that energy versus trying to like generate and like move things forward. You can like let things stay still and just kind of have fun with that, and that alleviates some of the creative pressure on you, because then you're just letting the story develop naturally by picking the lowest fruit. Like, we're at the beach. We're in a space that's, I think being in a space that's comforting too in game is nice, because that automatically takes the pressure off you. You're not creating some fantastical new setting, you're going to someplace familiar for the players too. So that's always my go-tos.
Yeah, and there's such amazing TV to pull from too right now. Oh, so good.
That just, when you said that, it reminded me of like a Buffy or like a Supernatural. And it's just where my head went. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I've been pulling lately from Raised by Wolves, which is an HBO show, sci-fi. Oh my God, I have there's a Warforged in the party in the game I run, and there is a construct in that show called Mother, and oh my God, there's such beautiful things to pull from Mother and Father that I bring into the game, and no one in the game watches it, so they don't know where I'm pulling some of these things, but it's like very inspirational, I think.
I'm a really big fan of mixing up the tone of things. So again, I'm going to give shout outs to my home game, to my partner, because he's really good for this. If you've had a streak of really heavy games, really heavy themes, to have something that's just really silly is great for resetting the mindset, the energies, you name it. We had a game, and it was all contained. It wasn't a one shot, but it was a very different kind of a thing. We had one session where our characters in our Pathfinder game, we had gone through this massively dangerous ritual and all this heavy stuff, and the next game session we wake up and we were babies. Something had gone off in the ritual. Instead of like regenerating as ourselves in our adult form, we were babies. And then we suddenly had a leap forward in our age, and so for most of the session we're running around as 8-year-olds, and we're trying to solve the situation. It was so much fun. Let me tell you, I had a blast. I'm playing an 8-year-old version of my swashbuckler, and we had decided that she still had her clothes, so she had like her big hat and didn't fit her right because she's only 8 years old, and she's got her big boots that don't fit her right. And hearing the NPC voices done as if they were 8 years old, I'm sorry, but it was great. We had a warlock NPC that we fell in love with, and we would not let the poor game master kill him off because we loved him so much. And so hearing this big scary warlock, just this little 8-year-old who was just very distressed about things, it was the best.
That's so awesome.
It's really fun.
After all of the heaviness, it was just fun.
Yeah.
I had a game.
And then you could go back and stories.
I had a game one time where we did something sort of similar, but instead of being like an age thing, we actually changed systems for one episode. And so we were playing a Pathfinder First Edition game, and the end of the session, everybody had fallen asleep. It was nighttime, whatever. And, nobody was up on watch because we were actually staying over at, like, somebody's parents' house. Like, one of the party members still lived at home with their parents. And so we were staying over at their house. And 3 of us ended up waking up in a dream. And you know how, like, in dreams, something may seem real, but at the same time, like, things don't work the way you expect them to. And so we switched in the dream. We switched from Pathfinder to 5e. So we were all still the same type of character, but like none of our skills worked correctly. And, you know, like, so then we had to go through, and because it was a Halloween themed one shot, it was sort of like we were all in this nightmare. And, you know, so we had basically been, you know, we set it like in this, it was the town, but it wasn't, and none of our skills worked right, and none of us knew what we were doing because we couldn't figure out why our skills wouldn't work right. And so it was just such a nice break from the ordinary, kind of like you were saying, you know, it's just like, it takes you out of some of that for a few minutes, and like, it was such a fun way to do it, you know, because then we all woke up and we're all like, that was the weirdest thing ever, you know, but... Yeah,
Did
but
the players know?
Yeah,
did you know?
We knew going into it that was going to happen because we had to remake our characters for 5e.
Oh, okay.
That's cool.
What was interesting about it was because it was a streamed game, what really had happened was we had a couple people who couldn't make it that week, and it just so happened to be the week leading up to Halloween. So the party members that couldn't make it, they were just asleep. They weren't part of it. And we actually brought in a DM who normally DM'd 5e, and then a couple of party members from their podcast. And so it was great for our characters because we were able to kind of keep the continuity of our normal stream time, our normal game, you know, but at the same time changing it up just enough to make it really different for everybody involved. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a really fun way to do it.
We did something really weird 2 weeks ago in our Elixir game on Tuesday nights, where for about 6 months I'd been talking with another DM. His name is Liam of 1 in 20 T2G, and we've been talking about swapping DMing each other's characters when our players went to each other's worlds. So that happened, and my players went into the world that he had created. And said, well, it's not really right for me to run your world. Why don't you come and DM my game, my players, and I'll become a player for the week or two. And oh my God. And the players didn't know until we went live, and I did my spiel at the beginning where I said we're gonna have fun tonight. I'm gonna become a player tonight. This is Liam, he's gonna DM, and they were like, what? And it was one of those things where
that's
you know
cool.
What the beauty was, I didn't have to do a damn thing to prep that week. So good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm instantly jealous.
You should do it. It was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It was fun to play with the players that I never get to play with because I'm always running them. Right. And I got to play one of them's son. That was even cooler. Who was there like they were trying to find for so long. You know, stolen away.
This idea of the rotating GM too is one that you hear from time to time.
Yeah.
And Allison, you said you do that on your show. You can discover some amazing game masters who didn't even know they could do it. And I'm speaking to you, Lynn.
Yep.
Yeah, Lynn, we're waiting.
Yeah.
We're all here for you.
If it makes you feel better, Lynn, I also don't DM.
Lynn, to make it safe, we will all play in your first game.
Yeah.
If you
There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, I think the problem is I'm so intimidated because I've had really fantastic game masters.
I was too.
I can't. How do I live up to that? I can't. And I love playing in the worlds that my game masters give me. I'm happy here. It's great. But it's intimidating.
Oh, it totally
really
is.
I started
you know,
DMing 6 years ago, and I've been a player for 20. So my forever DM said, hey, you know, I'd like a chance to play. So when we start this 5e campaign, how about you and I take turns? And that way I'll play a character and you'll play a character, but we'll take turns DMing. And I was like, no, I can't do that. You're the DM. And he was like, no, give it a try. And kind of coached me a bit. And he was very supportive and kind of gave me the confidence I needed. And I have a blast doing it. When I get to sit in that DM chair, it's a lot of fun. The best decision I ever made was to go out on a limb and give it a try. So I'm here to support you.
It's my favorite spot. I actually prefer DMing a little bit more than playing.
Me too.
Because you too. I like to know what's going on. Like I like to know all the stuff. You know? And then bring it out.
Honestly,
And then
it's intimidating even for me as a creator, as a writer, if I see somebody is running something I wrote. Like, oh gosh, oh gosh, oh gosh, how are they going to interact with what? It's so nerve-wracking. So I can only imagine being the game master, because you've got. I listen to my poor husband, and I mean, I'm one of his players, and I know that I thwart his plans unintentionally on a regular basis. So, you know, it's respect to all the GMs out there.
But the thing about it is we all play these games because we're storytellers. And so as players, you're already the storyteller that is required to be a GM.
That resonates with me so much. Like, that's why I'm so passionate about, like, everyone should sit in the seat at least once, because you already have that in you, being a player. I mean, I think the heavier lift is just like bringing someone into the hobby and then saying you should be a GM, which is also something that is amazing and should be happening. But yeah, I think, like, I firmly believe everyone is a storyteller, and if you're already sitting around the table rolling dice, like, you've got that. And the mystique around being a GM, yes, they're amazing, but like for so long, I mean, I was afraid to do it, and I'm new to the hobby, right? Like, I'm here, again, lifetime nerd, so like deep down the path of many fandoms, but I really only discovered TTRPGs 3 years ago, and the pandemic certainly accelerated that. I told my husband, like, I'm in my final form now, right? Like, I went from not knowing what TTRPGs were in 2020, or barely, like I played one D&D campaign, dragging all of my friends into it because I was like, this sounds like something I should like, and I was right. And then total acceleration in the pandemic of just like really digging in, seeing other systems, doing that fabled, you know, there's more beyond Dungeons and Dragons. And yeah, just taking that leap to be a DM, it was terrifying. And I will never forget that feeling. I'm streaming weekly now, GMing games purposefully, and, you know, bringing folks in and like having them GM those games so that we kind of demystify the role, because it's you know, we're all storytellers.
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful.
I know the reason that I haven't is because, and I've mentioned it here before, is because I actually have tried it in the past, and my experience was so bad. I just had probably the most unsupportive table ever that it terrified me from ever wanting to do it again. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was really, really rough. And so I was like, nope, that's it. I am all set there. So, yeah.
Well, one thing about about doing it online is when you run a game that is a local game, your pool of players is very tiny. No matter how big you think it is, it's tiny. Well, it could be 100 people, it could be 10 people. And I think it makes you less discerning as a DM selecting players that you want to run for or will allow in your game. Right. And I think you need to be selective a little bit about players, because there are some players that will end up being toxic, will be damaging to the party, are unwilling to be, you know, if they're just murder hobo idea, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, I don't want to run that. Some people want to run that. Let them have it. It's just, it's a mismatch of style. And once you start streaming online, the pool of players and talent, just, it's explosive and overwhelming. And then you have to start doing things like, well, how do I figure out which players? And, you know, I put out a casting call. I make a Google form that they can fill out. And I ask questions about things like, what are the things that you loved about your last game? Like, I want to know the things that like, I don't care about fights. I don't care about rules, how good they were with spells or dice. I want to know character stuff, and not, I mean, their personal character stuff as much as their character's character stuff. You know, if you get that stuff, that's why I think actually running for GMs and DMs, they're the most fun to run for, because they'll help you along. They know what you're doing and what you're running through, and they'll throw you so much juicy meat to play with. It's amazing.
Well, unfortunately, we are at the point where we need to start wrapping it up for the evening, even though I could do this for another 2 hours, but
really?
I know. We had such great questions, and we didn't even get to all of them. We still had a handful that we didn't even have the chance to talk about. So, Yeah, I think it looks like we have 3 that we didn't even get to ask. So I liked a lot of them, and I think what I'll do is tomorrow I will post 1 or 2 of them on Twitter, and put them out to the general community, and I'll be sure to tag everybody too, so you can have a chance to answer them there as well. But what I would like to do again is go around again and just have everybody remind us of who you are, where we can find you on social media, anything that you have that you would like to share and promote. And so we're going to go in the reverse order from when we started. So this time, Scott, we're going to start with you.
Okay. I'm Scott. I'm one half of ZealZaddy. We are streamers and publishers. You can find us everywhere at ZealZaddy. So that would be Twitch, all the socials except freaking TikTok, which there's nothing there yet anyway because I'm so mad at not having ZealZaddy. Socials, YouTube. We have 6 products out in the last 6 weeks on drive-through, which is it's blowing my mind, to be honest, that we've done that. It's an amazing thing. And what else? There was something I'm missing. I don't know. I'll post it on social or in chat after when I remember.
Well, always a pleasure to have you, Scott. I'm so glad it worked out to have you come back on and hang out in person. And I'm sure we will see you around again soon.
Next Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be here.
I'll be in chat.
Yes. Lynn. Oh, right as she goes to take a sip of coffee.
Yep, that's okay. That's okay. All good. I'm coffee fueled. Yeah, I'm Lynn, and I write stuff, and I edit stuff, and I proofread stuff, and I do all the things with words. Right now, I do have a game out in the trans rights bundle on itch.io. There's, I believe, 6 days left for you to get the bundle. It's just this incredible bundle. It's like $5, and you get all the games, and it goes to a really great cause. It's getting close to the $400,000 mark that has been raised for trans charities, specifically serve trans youth in Texas. I would love to see it hit that 400,000 mark. My game in there is this wonderful little Bi Pride witchy game that I just love. So go check it out if you're looking for something perfect for Pride or any time like that. I got a couple of things that are brewing. Last year I'd written for something called Chromatic Gamut, which is an all-queer celebration expansion to the Monsters of Merca game setting. It's compatible with 5e. That should be coming out this year. It's going through final play tests right now, so look for that. And I'm also just starting as a world builder for something called All the Witches. So if you want more witchy content, come and follow me on Twitter. That's where I post most of my stuff. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming back on again. Let's not go another 2 years before you come back. We will definitely have to have you back on again soon. So it was so great to have you. Allison.
Yeah. Hi again. I'm Allison. I am on all over the internet, but my main house is Twitch. So you can follow me at Insight Checked on Twitch for my Twitch channel. And then Twitter is where I primarily post. Though I think I'm lurking on other socials too, so you can find me there for some little Easter eggs. But yeah, it's been wonderful to be here with you all because, as I said, I'm kind of at the beginning of this journey. So it's always great to hear from others who are at different stages in their hobbies and careers. And for me personally, I'm interested in storytelling. So that's my through line. I'm an educator. I have an education background. And so kind of bringing stories to life in different ways, bringing different people to the table for new perspectives. That's what I'm all about. So you can see our mini series. We have rotating players, GMs, and systems every month. So a lot of variety and a lot of new voices coming to the table. So check us out on Twitch, and we hope to see you in chat, hanging out.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on and hanging out, and it was great to get to meet you. I know we run in some similar circles, so it's always nice to actually be able to connect with everybody. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Ty.
Hey. I am Dungeon Mr. Ty on socials, mostly on Twitter or at Adventure Sling. But I think I will skip the neovardenrpg.com. That's not as easy to remember. You can find everything at adventureslang.com. Adventureslang.com. We have a podcast. We have VODs of past live plays of Neo Varden. We have a Neo Varden page set up, a link to the Kickstarter, lots and lots of stuff on where to find us, who we are, and what's going on. So if interested, would love to have you there. The podcast is on Podbean primarily, but also on Spotify and several other platforms. And we've had a cool little lineup of guests so far. And it's kind of an aside to what we do. We're primarily game design and publication, but love to see you there. And I will see you in the interwebs.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming back, Ty. Good luck with your Kickstarter. I hope it is successful. Give that a check if you haven't already had the chance to. And, I will definitely see you around. And Ken.
Yeah, I'm Ken, Bakery Crew Ken on Twitter. I do a podcast called Roll with Party with some of my buddies. I just like to talk and make friends. That's sort of why I'm here. That's why I started on Twitter, not as a creator, just like-minded people that play games and like nerd stuff. So if you need a friend, if you need a weird friend, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
Well, I know I love seeing you around the Twitter sphere, so I'm sure others will as well. And thank you for coming on and hanging out tonight. It's like I said, it's always nice when I can put a face to the social media handle.
Yeah, it's great to actually interact with you like this. You're awesome.
Yeah, you're awesome. All right. Well, I am Gamer Mom Luna. This has been Tales from the Tavern. We are here just about every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. I say just about every Sunday night because coming up in May, I will be taking a 3-week vacation. And that is because I'm working on planning fundraisers. So that's going to be coming up. Let's see. I think I'm done with one-shots for the month of for March. So coming up in April, you'll catch me over on I've got a couple of recordings that I'm doing with other channels. So you can follow my socials and you'll find all of that stuff out then. And coming up in May, we will have the 100th episode celebration of Tales from the Tavern. I've got a great panel lined up for that already. There's going to be some giveaways, so that's really exciting. And then, as I mentioned, I'm taking 3 weeks off in the month of May, and that will be because when we return in June, we're starting off season 4 with a fundraiser for World Central Kitchen, where me and my 5 guests, also a very amazing panel that is all lined up. It's going to be a blast. I can tell you that already. We are going to be essentially taking Tales from the Tavern and crossing it with an episode of Hot Ones, and we are going to be eating hot sauces from all around the world as we raise money for World Central Kitchen and talk TTRPGs. Like, how can you go wrong? And then coming up in the month of July, keep an eye out for information about the Extra Life Charity Stream Weekend Extravaganza, where we will have 3 days of TTRPG content, Friday through Sunday, where we'll be raising money for Extra Life. In 2021, we raised $1,000, so my goal this year is $1,100. Small but manageable. So please keep an eye out for all of that information as well. But otherwise, until the mid-May, we will be here every Sunday night, and hopefully everybody in chat will be here to join us. So we are going to kick off a raid. We're going to go over and see. Let's make sure they're still live. We're going to go over and see my good buddies at Roll for Chaos. They're doing some more tabletop RPGs. Yay. Yeah, great people over there. And so we're going to go say hi to them. I hope you all have a lovely evening and a great rest of your week. And we will see you all next Sunday night. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Tales from the Tavern. You can catch this podcast recorded live every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/GamerMomLuna. All of our questions come directly from chat, so we never really know what to expect when we go live. If you ever have a question or would like to add something to the conversation, feel free to reach out on Twitter at GamerMomLuna and use the hashtag TFTT. You may just get to hear it answered. Thanks so much.
I should go.